Welcome, YouTube friends. Today, I'm excited to join Blair, the creator of Timetrades AI-powered timing software, to share our research on the fascinating correlations between 1929 and 2024. Welcome, Blair.
Hi there, Margo. Thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, I'm super excited to share our research with everyone here. Do you want to start by giving everybody a little introduction to time cycle analysis?
Yeah, sure. Real simple. It's just building on concepts you already know and probably take for granted, right? Like the concept of a year being one trip around the sun, or the concept of a month being one orbit of the moon. All Margo and I are doing is we're taking those common timing concepts that everyone knows and we're applying those to other planets in the solar system, right? So we're looking at orbits of Venus or orbits of Jupiter, and we're seeing how those also correlate with market behavior. So it's a real simple concept. There can be a little bit of lingo though, so there's going to be lots of links for you to learn more. And Timetrades, a big part of Timetrades is creating tooling to make analysis like this easy and approachable.
Thanks, Blair. Yeah, the Timetrades tools have been absolutely essential in all of the work that I've been doing, actually. So I have been studying Black Swan events, and over the course of studying Black Swan events, of course, like the top event that comes up is the 1929 event. On September 3rd of 1929, it marked the peak of the Dow Jones Industrial Average before a nearly 3-year decline, which resulted in the single largest loss of value in the stock market history, a total decline of 89.5%. So I just want to name that talking about 1929 can really trigger emotions for us. And I'm going to request that we all put our emotions aside, because I'm not calling for a 3-year bear market with a 90% loss in the stock market. What I'm doing is using the 1929 event, because it was such a major event in the stock market history, as a starting point for cycle work. And whenever there are major highs or major lows in the stock market, we can identify the planetary and time cycles that are correlated with those major highs and lows, and we can use those to project forward future highs and lows in the stock market. And so I have uncovered a time cycle that's correlated to the Metonic cycle of the moon. And if you don't know what that means, that's okay. I actually made a video about it, and there's a link in the video description below describing the Metonic cycle of the moon. But the short story is that every 19 years, the moon will return to almost the exact same place in the sky at the same time, on the same calendar day, every 19 years. And so when I started studying the Metonic cycle of the moon, I found that there was a correlation to Black Swan events, but it's not every 19 years. Actually, the key is 19 times 5, which is every 95 years. And so one of the things that I do in my work is that I create analogs. And an analog is something that is like something else. So it's like encapsulated in Mark Twain's quote, which is, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. So by studying historical patterns and cycles, I'm able to create price movement projections that are based on prior time and price cycles. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and share my Dow Jones analog that I have created with you guys. And it's going to be pretty impressive when we take a look at how it's been tracking in 2024. So these lines mark, this is January 2nd, the first trading week of 2024. And these brown bars here are the price action from 1929, and the scale is adjusted to fit the scale here in 2024. And so this also was the first week of January in 1929 in the brown bars, and then it's projected out to the last week of December in 2024. And as you can see, we have been tracking really well on this analog. There are usually in my studies, there's 2 moments where there's a deviation from the analog, or 3 actually. It's during eclipse season here. And then there's 50% of travel between the eclipse seasons, which is sun square the nodes here. And then our next eclipse season will be coming up in late September and early October. So during the eclipse season in the spring, you notice that the 1929 analog made a low, but price made a high. But then we did course correct. And so this is overall very impressive that the analog has followed the overall trajectory of the weekly price action on the Dow Jones for 2024. So where we're at right now is that we have been going sideways. In 1929, there was some sideways action for a few weeks. And so we haven't exactly been going sideways for weeks here because we did hit this sun square the node deviation, and there was a subtle deviation where in 1929 we went up, but we went sideways here, and that course corrected here. So that brings us to our point in time now where we have these two outside bars. And in 1929, we also had two outside bars at this exact moment in time. So last week we closed with our first outside bar. So next week I'm looking for a volatile week with potentially another outside bar. And the long short of this is that if this analog is accurate and continues to trade out in direct correlation to 1929, we would be looking for a high in the stock markets the first week of September, and that would be around September 3rd. Now, just to show everybody the validity of this, I have tracked this on multiple different tops before major declines or Black Swan events. So this is the 2007 top before the 2008 financial crisis. And as you can see, we went back 95 years. So I'm using the 1912 price action here. And the red lines are the eclipse seasons. So those represent our deviations from the analog, as you can see. But the rest of the time, price followed along quite nicely. We had a little deviation actually here before the eclipse season, but overall, the trajectory of the price action was very similar. So I've done this with several different events, and I have found that there is this very strong correlation between structure and form of the price movement 95 years prior to the 95-year cycle forward. All right, Blair, I know you have some really interesting research also on 1929, 2024.
That's right, Margo. So I'm just going to share my screen here and share some of that. So what you're looking at here is about 20 odd years of the Dow. And we're showing some lines on the screen. These lines represent something called the lunar node. And the lunar node is a special point in the moon's orbit where it basically crosses the equator of the solar system. So it crosses the 0-degree line. And what's interesting about 0 degrees north and south is that that is where all the eclipses happen. So the node is in effect a different way to connect the sun and the moon and the earth, because all the eclipses have to happen when the moon is at its node. All right. So this is very similar to the Metonic cycle, which is a slightly different way of connecting the earth, the moon, and the sun. All right. So with that in mind, we can convert the location of the node on its 360-degree orbit, which takes 18.6 years, not quite 19 years like the Metonic cycle, slightly different, 18.6. And you can see the last full node cycle started June 26 of 2006. And it's going to be ending soon, January 11th, in 2025. So we're coming up to the end of this node cycle here. And you can see how these lines are actually extremely good support and resistance lines for the Dow. And you can see how well they have acted as resistance over here in 2012, and also resistance over here in 2013. Excellent spot here in 2018. It caught the 2021 high, and some of the lows are just as incredible, if not better, like the 2020 COVID crash low, or over here, the 2022 low, just before the recent bull market started. So we are here. We are sitting almost right on a node planetary line. The next line up is about 43,200. So this information can inform and help support and create some confluence for the analog work that Margo just showed. So this, in my opinion, would be kind of the almost the maximum. I don't want to say that nothing can go higher than this, but this would be a very likely peak level if the analog were to play out as shown. This would be a very likely peak level in the Dow. If price were to break down and separate below this node level here at about 39.6, then the next support level down would be down here at 36,000. So these are very useful lines that can be used to create accurate forecasts when combined with price action analysis. We always like to combine our astrology and cycle work with price action analysis because that makes it much more accurate and reliable. Okay, back to you, Margo.
Awesome. Thanks, Blair. Yeah, so I have one more time cycle that I'm tracking that indicates that we are in a time band for a major top in the markets. And this is based on a Mars cycle. And so it's a 2-year planetary time cycle. And it actually is oriented to when heliocentric Mars transits through the sign of Scorpio and the sign of Taurus. And for those of you that might not be familiar with astrology lingo, heliocentric means from the sun's perspective. So a lot of astrology and is oriented from the geocentric perspective, from what we see here on Earth. But you can also orient from the sun's position and track the longitudinal travel of the planets from the sun's perspective. And that's a tool that I use quite a bit in my work. So if that's something you're interested in learning about, you also could check out my Patreon or some of the links in the video description below. So this time cycle is correlated to, let's actually flip this on the monthly chart. This is correlated to major monthly turns in the US equity markets. I've tracked it on the Dow Jones and I've tracked it on the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. And as you can see, the turn usually happens between the time Mars makes its ingress into either Scorpio or Taurus and the 50% of the travel. But at any point in time, it's really fair game, right? So we are here. We've been moving up since October of 2023. And we all know that a correction is coming. And it's all lining up with the Mars planetary cycle, indicating that we're going to see a major monthly turn in the markets. And that time cycle actually started on Friday. So heliocentric Mars made an ingress into heliocentric Taurus this Friday, August 2nd, and it will transit that sign until September 24th of 2024. So we have about a month and a half of time that we can be looking for this major turn in the stock market. And so interestingly enough, if we take this cycle and then we combine it with the analog, you can see that actually 50% of the travel through heliocentric Taurus is going to align with the analog. I live in the country, so my internet loads kind of slow. So we're just going to be patient here and wait for a second. But 50% of the travel through heliocentric Taurus aligns with the top in 1929, which came in on the 3rd of September in 1929. There we go. So this would correlate with the thesis that with Blair's planetary lines, that if we're going to hold this low here, that's coming in roughly the low from last week, or potentially one more wick lower before a bounce. If we are to hold this low here, we might come up and we could have one more push that could give us our final top in the week of September. With that being said, we are in the time band for a top. So it is entirely possible that the top is in. And so we would want to be watching price action very closely to determine if we are going to hold this low here or maybe make one wick below and go up, or if we are potentially having the top in and looking for the confirmation of a downtrend. All right, Blair, do you have anything else you want to wrap up with?
No, that's great, Margo. I'll just share a little bit of information about our websites and that. So As I mentioned earlier, I created Timetrades. I did that about 4 years ago, and it's really focused on two things. It's focused on creating timing tools for TradingView to make this kind of analysis easy and convenient. And there's also AI-based forecasts that are part of the solution as well. Most weeks I'll pull together an educational video on how to apply time trades to the week's market action. We also have a 15-day free trial, and there's a coupon code on the screen there for 10% off.
Thanks, Blair. Yeah, Blair, your tools have been absolutely instrumental in all of the work that I've been doing. And so I have launched my website very recently in June of this last June, and I'm now offering personalized astrology readings via my website, as well as personalized portfolio analysis and private financial astrology training. And then I also have a Patreon that where I put out a bi-weekly newsletter, and that includes timing forecasts, time and price, but I really focus on my timing analysis. And then that also includes regular video up and written updates throughout the week. I have a Discord coming very soon, probably within a week or so of the making of this video. And if you're interested and curious about learning more about time studies and financial astrology, you can check out my Patreon with a 7-day free trial and see if it fits your needs. Okay, everybody, make sure you subscribe to my channel and give this video a like if you found it useful. And thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye.